Good evening, Love Bay family, and welcome back to the Mental Health Hour on Love Bay Afrobeat Music and Talk Radio. I'm your host, Felicia Fishoff, registered psychotherapist and founder of Rooted in Resilience Psychotherapy and Wellness. And tonight is She Speaks, a space where women's voices, lived experience, and honest conversations about healing are centered and honored. Tonight's episode is titled, Why Willpower Isn't Enough: The Truth About Breaking Generational Patterns as a Mom. So often, generational healing is framed as a matter of willpower. I know better, so I'll do better. But for many mothers, especially those carrying deep or complex trauma, awareness alone isn't always enough to create lasting change. Parenting can bring up parts of us we didn't expect, old patterns, emotional reactions, and survival strategies that show up even when we're deeply committed to doing things differently. And when that happens, shame often follows. Tonight's conversation is about naming that reality with honesty and compassion. I'm joined tonight by Senait Litchmore. Come on, a psychotherapist, mother, and daughter of refugees with over 15 years of experience supporting women's healing through both faith and clinical practice. She's the creator of the Mommy and Me Christian Journal, a guided resource for mothers and daughters, and a contributing co host on the nationally aired faith based show See, Hear, Love. Together, we'll be unpacking why breaking generational patterns requires more than good intentions. We'll explore how survival based family systems shape parenting, why certain patterns resurface, and how healing is often non linear, even for those of us trained in this work. We'll also share from our own motherhood journeys, including what we've learned, what we've unlearned, and where growth is still unfolding. Before we begin, a gentle reminder. This show is for educational and reflective purposes only, and it is not a substitute for therapy or individualized mental health care. Please take what resonates and leave the rest. And just so you know, the chat is open. You're welcome to share reflections, questions, or simply let us know that you're listening. You don't need the right words, just being here is enough. So, tonight, girl, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Felicia.
Oh my gosh, the pleasure is all mine. I have been looking forward to our episode for the longest time. And so, tell me a little bit about why you think that the Love Bay family needs to be speaking about this topic tonight.
Yeah, a great question. We all know when we go on social media, whether it's TikTok,
Mm,
Instagram, there's so much information out there around generational healing.
yes,
And we're having those conversations with our friends,
yes.
in church, in our families. And I think somewhere along the way, we've
Mm-hmm,
kind of watered down
mm-hmm.
this process. We've watered down
Yes.
how intensive it can be, how challenging it can be, and that, again, like you
Yes,
said, it's not linear, you know? And so I think it's important to
absolutely.
have these conversations because
Yeah.
there are a lot of individuals who feel like I'm doing the work, I'm learning, I'm reading, but
Mm,
I still find myself falling into old habits and old patterns, or maybe patterns that are from my parents. And so
girl,
that's what the
yes,
conversation is necessary, right?
absolutely. And we're just going to put it out here, okay? We know that motherhood is not easy.
Yeah.
Like, you take home this little child after carrying them for 10 months, okay? It's
Yeah.
not 9 months, it's 10.
Mhm.
Uh, and then we have this huge responsibility to take care of this little one. But
Mhm.
yet, obviously, we have lives before we have children,
Yeah.
and we carry such a heavy weight with us. And I found, especially for myself, that a lot of, um, even traumas
Mhm.
resurfaced even when I was pregnant. And I was like, oh my gosh, right? And so, honestly, I'm so glad that we're talking about it because I think that we don't have this conversation enough.
Yeah. And it's funny because, as a
Yeah.
therapist, it's different for us. Like when I became a mom, I was so confident. I'm like, I thought like, I'm waiting for this day where I can finally
Yes.
apply what I know. And
Yes.
I think with my first child, it was a little bit easier.
Mm-hmm.
When I became a mom of two, I was like, it was very challenging for me. It was
Yeah.
it was extremely challenging, and I found
Yeah.
myself almost doing things that I said I would never do. Um,
Mm,
Acting in a way that I wasn't proud of,
yeah.
and experiencing a lot of shame. And
Yeah.
now when I look back, I know that it's because I was under a lot of stress.
Yep.
And when you're under a lot of stress, what
Mm.
happens is like your amygdala, your emotional center is overactive,
Yes.
right? And
Mm-hmm.
so I couldn't use the logical part of my brain. I couldn't
Yeah.
use the strategy. I couldn't access that because I was under so much stress. As
Yes.
a mom of two, I didn't have a lot of supports. I
Mm.
lived in the suburbs at that point. So it's like I just couldn't access what I knew. And
Mm.
in that moment, I'm like, I got to do something differently because this isn't
Absolutely.
working for me.
Absolutely. So where do you think the willpower piece comes into this conversation? Because I love when you shared the title with me and I was like, willpower isn't an I'm like, girl, yes, right?
Yeah, but like, I think sometimes willpower does work, like for
Mm,
a lot of people don't want to hit their children anymore, and
yeah,
willpower is enough,
yeah.
able
Hmm.
to make that decision, have self-control, and they're like, I'm not going to smack my kids, I'm not going to hit them, and that
Yeah.
works. But then there are those other things, those deep-seated wounds that you didn't even know were there, right?
Yes.
Built up. So like in those moments, that's
Mm,
when we have to realize, okay, maybe I need more than
yeah.
willpower. Maybe I need to access other resources. And so, like, I want to share
Yes.
a story.
Yes,
So
please. I love stories.
it's embarrassing, but I'm like, I have to share
That's
this.
okay.
So when again, when I was a mom of two, I have three kids, by the way, but when
Yes.
I had two of them, I had to do two different drop-offs, and then I had to go to work. And so
Mm,
this particular day, my 4-year-old was very slow. She moved
yes.
slow, very slow, and so I was
Yeah.
late for a meeting.
Mm-hmm.
And as I was making my first drop off, I start criticizing her. I'm like, it's your
Yeah.
fault we're late. I can't believe
Mm,
you made me late. You made me so slow. And I'm blaming my 4-year-old.
mm, mm.
So after I dropped them both off and I sat in my car, I
Yeah.
started crying because I couldn't believe how that I was blaming a 4-year-old
Uh-huh.
for not reading,
Girl, we've all been there.
Yeah. Um, that was an example where willpower wasn't enough. I didn't want to criticize her like that. I didn't want to grade
No.
her. That wasn't something I ever wanted to do. But I found myself constantly doing that with her because I was under so much stress and my willpower wasn't enough.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
and the funny thing that exact day, I actually ended up passing by a neighbor's house, and she asked me to come in, and I told her about what
Yeah.
happened and just how ashamed I was because I had a
Mm,
lot of shame.
yeah.
Sharing that is was absolutely healing because she
Mm,
was able to counter my shame in real time.
yeah.
She was able to
Absolutely.
be like, I've been there, I've done that before. This
Yeah.
doesn't mean you're a bad mom. The fact
Mm,
that you realize that it is huge. And those moments of inviting community into
yeah.
into my moments where it was so hard to break
Hmm.
really was healing. And I didn't know that in the moment. The
Yes.
more I did that, the more I invited other people into my shame, into my
Mm,
experiences, I was able to rewire
yes.
myself through community and make
Yes.
a lasting change.
Yes, I am so glad that you brought up the community piece, right? Because
Mhm.
I think this brings us back to just the way that we heal in our collective,
Right.
right? It's very co-regulating, right? And I
Mhm.
love that she was able to gently hold your story, hold your experience in the moment, and really help that those feelings of shame to come down,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
that's an example of, willpower not being enough, but a
Yeah.
counter to that is community. Um,
Yes.
because shame is, oh, I hate shame.
Uh,
I
girl,
hate
you
shame
and
so
me both.
like and depending on your cultural context, right?
Yeah.
Some cultures where shame is just woven like in the fabric of the
Yes.
cultures where shame keeps us hidden,
Mm,
secrets, and we end up internalizing a lot of things and not sharing it because sometimes
yeah.
there's a risk, right? There's a risk
Yeah.
of not belonging, of people looking at you a certain way. It just actually could be threatening depending on the cultural context. And so sometimes
100%.
it's easier to hide and not share what your challenges are.
Absolutely. I love that you said that because not all community is the same,
Hmm.
right? You were able to go to someone that you trusted, and but there's going to also be other environments that, like, I remember having my little ones going to those like mommy and me programs, and no knocking them, some of them are amazing, but some of
Yeah,
them are just like a ground for comparison. Well, my child was
they're all
walking since they came out of the womb. And you're just
so
like,
smart. Yep.
right, and then the comparison comes up, which then is also another breeding ground for shame, right? And you're
Hmm.
right, like a lot of our cultures does have a huge shame culture,
Yeah.
right? And which we end up carrying on in our own parenting, and it's just a cycle, right?
And even when I think about shame, I think about how in some cultures, including my own, like I'm American
Mm-hmm.
from East Africa,
Mm-hmm.
and
Pick
speaking
up yourself, East Africa. For those of you tuning in, brat, brat, brat.
like there is like a huge respect that we have for our elders
Yes.
and for our parents. Like it's just
Yes.
a very important part of the culture. And so
Mhm.
the other side of that coin is that it oftentimes is hard for people to name
Yeah.
the harm that
Yeah.
was caused in their family systems, and
Mhm.
most usually unintentionally.
Of
But
course.
a lot of people have a hard time even naming it because
Mhm.
naming that my parents did something wrong or that
Mhm.
they caused any kind of harm, it puts us in a shame spiral. It makes us
Yeah.
think we're not a good kid, we're not
Mhm.
grateful for all the sacrifices that our parents make, we're self,
Yes.
we're not honoring, even from a faith-based standpoint, like now I'm dishonoring my parents, I'm dishonoring God.
Yes.
And what happens, it kind of keeps people stuck. When you
Yeah.
can't name that thing, when you can't
Mhm.
identify it, it's really hard to move through it. It actually keeps us
Yeah.
stuck. Like shame keeps us stuck and
Yeah.
allow us to move through and to create a new narrative, a new story, a new belief because we're so afraid of
Yeah.
saying this thing that's true, but
Yeah.
we believe is not worth the risk.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, for those that are listening and they may feel stuck, just like you're saying, right?
Mhm.
Where do they go from here? Like, how do they begin to break those generational patterns, while moving through that fear of being able to name the things that are bothering them?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it looks different for different people.
Absolutely.
For some people, it's easier to write it down. For some
Mm,
people, it's easier to share it with a friend, and for
yes.
others, they need that confidential space, like a
Hmm.
therapy office.
Yes. Yes.
I think even in prayer, because it's the thing that we say in therapy, like
Yeah.
externalizing, externalizing,
Absolutely.
right? So,
Yes.
how to get it out of our system, whatever that looks
Yes.
like. And
Absolutely.
for me, prayer was a huge thing. It was almost like a
Hmm.
confessional.
Yeah.
When that confessional is the same vein of naming it and
Yes.
it, like we say in therapy.
Yes.
Acts the same way. So even like, God, like I just bring before you this pain that I experienced in childhood.
Mm,
Even saying those words is so redemptive. It's
mm,
almost like agreeing to begin this repair work, but
yeah.
also acknowledging like this is not my burden to carry.
Hmm.
And I love it because I can partner with God, I can partner
Hmm.
with a therapist,
Yes.
partner with a friend, and this
Hmm.
goes back to how we're wired. We're wired for
Hmm.
co-regulation. When a child
Absolutely.
is crying and we pick it up, we're co-regulating with that child.
Yes.
Natural instinct that we as parents have. And so
Absolutely.
we still have that natural need to
Hmm.
co-regulate. So I think choosing who can
Yeah.
I partner with, who is
Mm,
a safe space, a safe person that I can partner. and kind of confess or share
Yeah.
some of these things with.
Absolutely. Girl, I love that you're talking about co-regulation. That's
Yeah,
right up my alleyway. I love it. I love it, right?
I
Because I
love
think
it. Yeah.
we're a lot of our cultures are not um we're never like individualistic
No.
cultures. So co-regulation has actually always been a part of our healing. If we actually look at the different ways that we adopt healing through prayer, right? Through um, laughter
Yeah.
has been like big up to my hairstylist today. She really dolled me up today. And we laughed until we cried.
I
We It
love
was just, and it was co-regulate. Like, I feel so much lighter. Not only does my hair look great,
Yeah.
but we were able to share stories. We were able to heal together again through laughter, and that's all co-regulation, right?
Mhm.
Through music and dance. And you know once come on, when we play music, you know that we cannot stay still, right? Because it's
Yeah.
in our bones, and these are different ways that we've learned to heal and to
Mhm.
release, and it's all co-regulation.
Mhm. And I love that you brought up your hairdresser because
Yes.
sometimes we, I know me, I'm guilty of as a therapist and even as a
Yeah.
person, I tend to kind of get serious. Like I want to have conversations, a deep conversation, but there's
Yes.
healing in the lighthearted conversations. Like even if
Yeah.
you're ready to talk about your parenting journey and the challenges that you're
Mhm.
just being
Yeah.
around other moms,
Yes.
with kids that are the same age as your child. Just being
Yes.
in community physically. You don't
Yeah.
have to share the hard things, but when
Yeah.
you're together, there's something that happens in those.
Yes.
And so you kind of have to figure out like what am I ready for? Like what
Yeah.
what's my bandwidth? Do I have the people or the spaces to go deep? If the answer is
Mhm.
no, how can I
Mhm.
then be physically around those people
Mhm.
that I
Yes.
want to be my safe spaces, that I want to trust, but I'm not
Mhm.
there yet?
Absolutely.
There's even value in that?
100%. So, you are listening to the Mental Health Hour on Love Bay Afrobeat Music and Talk Radio with me, Felicia Fishoff, registered psychotherapist and founder of Rooted in Resilience Psychotherapy and Wellness. If this conversation is resonating with you, you can catch this episode and past episodes on Love Bay Afrobeat Music and Talk Radio across YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and LinkedIn. You can also visit lovebay-afrobeatmusicradio.com to stay connected. And if you're able, supporting the station through a donation helps keep these conversations accessible to our community. Talking about community, yes. So I think that building trust is also important when it comes
Yeah.
to sharing, because I feel like a lot of us we struggle with sharing because we're afraid that we're gonna get hurt,
Mhm. Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
But we weren't meant for isolation at the same time.
No. Yeah, and I love that you brought that up because
Mhm.
a lot of the work that we do with our clients is trying to identify, is this fear based on your present or is it based on a historical wound, your own or one that
Yes.
you witnessed? Because
Yes.
when people tell me they can't trust the people around them, we
Yes.
have to we have to determine whether or not this is a real worry, because sometimes it is.
100.
Sometimes you can't trust the people around you. Other times it's you kind of it's your muscle memory. It's bringing up
100.
things from the past.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Our brain is a very powerful tool, right?
Mhm.
And it loves to make these associations, and it remembers everything, and makes these like associations and connections. Like, so someone could scuff your shoe tomorrow and it brings you all the way back to when you were in kindergarten, right? And someone took your favorite shoe.
Yeah,
Right? And
exactly.
so, yeah.
Yeah, and I think and this is why like compassion is important too.
Yes.
I think as moms, especially with all the content that exists today, it's really
Mhm.
easy to be hard on ourselves. It's really easy to be
Mhm.
like, why can't I get it right? Why
Yeah.
can't I stop yelling? Why can't I be more patient? Why can't I be more loving to my
Yes.
children? And
Yeah.
when, in that shame, it keeps us stuck, right? And it keeps us in
Yep.
this shame spiral. And
Yeah.
so one way to get out of that is compassion.
Mm.
Compassion
Yes.
is huge when it comes to shame.
Yes.
And sometimes willpower is not enough to get you out of that shame cycle. You
Absolutely.
know? And so, we all oftentimes we talk about like self-compassion, like what does that look like to have compassion on yourself? Um,
Hmm.
and that is like not something that happens overnight, no matter
Yeah.
how much you
No.
want to do.
No. No.
Like there are still areas in my life that I need more compassion. And I don't know about you, Felicia,
Oh,
but
girl, trust me. 100%.
it's, but it's
Yeah.
like, it's a learning, it's a journey. And I think
Yeah.
being like accepting the fact that we're human
Hmm.
goes a long way.
Yes.
Accepting the fact that you can know so much and still get it
Hmm.
wrong because you're human,
Yeah.
um, goes a long way, and that's okay. Like we're
Yes.
allowed to be human, even as moms. And
Absolutely.
and to be honest, like I accept that I will get it wrong. I accept that
Hmm.
I'm not always gonna get it right. I'm not always gonna hit the mark, but
Hmm.
I could try my best, do my best, and kind of give God the rest, to be honest. Knowing that
100%.
our brains are wired for resilience. Our
Yes.
brain is wired to keep us safe, and
Yes.
we'll never be able to protect our kids 100%,
Mm.
no matter
No.
no matter what.
No, trust me. I still recall when I was doing my program, and there was one class that they were talking about just like these patterns, the generational patterns and the attachment wounds and all of this. And I remember because my youngest was he was under 2 years old at the time.
Mhm.
And I was sitting in this class going, oh my gosh, I messed my kids up. Because I'm like, I made so many mistakes. I was like, oh gosh, my kids. And I remember my professor at the time, big up yourself, Helen. No, yeah. And she, so I just want to speak to all the parents in the room who
Mhm.
right now might be beating themselves up.
She read your
Just,
mind. She
and I
read
was just like, over here, like I was literally like I wanted to cry because I was like, oh
your
my gosh, like I feel like I had made so many mistakes.
Mhm.
But she's just like, your kids are resilient and they're gonna
Mhm.
be okay. And now that you know that you can
Mhm.
and I talk to my clients all the time, like, pivot. It's okay to pivot. It's okay,
Yeah.
like, yes, of course I wasn't perfect. And what is perfection, right? It's a made up
Mm.
construct. It doesn't even exist, right?
No. No.
All we can do is make sure that our next decision is better than the one that we made before, right?
Mhm.
And I was like, okay, today. So I wiped my slate clean that day. I felt like she could have called an altar call. I would have went up. I'm
Pray
like,
for me.
pray for me. But I made a mental decision that I was going
Yeah.
to, based on what I know now, to do things differently and to
Yeah.
pivot, and that's okay, right?
Mhm. Exactly. And
So
so, yeah.
Helen, you changed my life, girl. All
Yes.
right.
Professor Helen. No, I
Yeah.
love that you share that, because I
Yeah.
think it's really easy for people to have an anxiety-based parenting.
Yes.
When you have experienced challenges in your childhood,
Hmm.
whether it's traumas or just really difficult situations, it's
Absolutely.
natural to not want your children to experience that. And that's why I believe every generation breaks patterns. Every
Yeah.
generation breaks some
Yep.
patterns.
Yep.
Most parents are doing better than their parents did before them, and that's our natural
Yeah.
power. We love our kids. We love them and we wanna do better. But
Absolutely.
my worry with this culture right now is this anxiety-based parenting where we
Yeah.
know so much and we're so stressed and worried that we overcorrect. We
Yes.
overcompensate because now we're
Yep.
internalizing not just our own experiences, but now everyone's experiences online, and we wanna do
100.
everything we can to ensure that our child is not damaged like they were or like ABCD person was. And that is a scary place to be at, but it's honestly
Yeah.
a lot of people, and I have had
It's
seasons
true.
where like anxiety has definitely had a kind
Of
of a hold
course.
on me, right? Where I'm just like,
Absolutely.
I made the wrong mistake. I made the wrong decision.
Yeah.
I'm gonna mess up my kids. It's like
Yeah.
this grip. And we
Yeah.
don't want that either.
No.
No.
Is it bad that, every so often I say to myself, I don't want to be the one that my child talks about in therapy 20 years from now? I mean, I'm probably sure it's going to happen, but
Yeah, I think that's
I'm
what
like,
it's
I'm like, my mama, she did not give me those nacho chips. I'm like, oh boy, oh Lord. But yeah, no, but we all we can do is our best,
exactly. All we can
right?
do is our best.
Yes.
And and even like recognize when we might be overcorrecting, you know,
Yes.
recognizing when we might be working too hard versus
Mm,
actually living, being present, being
yeah.
intentional, being in the moment, because that
Mm,
calming presence
yes.
goes a long way.
It really does.
It
And
goes a long way.
yeah, absolutely. And our kids, they adore us. No
Yeah.
matter how many mistakes we make, these kids are just like I remember even on the hardest days where I'm like, oh my gosh, I just made so many mistakes. I'm just so like overwhelmed and annoyed. And then my little one would be like, Mommy, you're the best mommy in the whole wide world. And I'm just like, what? Because that's what they see. And I feel like if we could actually, like you mentioned earlier, externalize everything,
Mhm,
what they see is, oh, my mommy loves me so much. Look, she
mhm,
made me this food,
mhm,
right? Or, oh, my mommy, she loves me so much. She's spending time with me, right? That's
mhm.
what they see.
Yeah. And I think sometimes it changes, the older kids get, like, my
Yeah.
oldest is 12, and, she has told me at different occasions that, sometimes she feels
Mm,
like I don't love her in that moment. Remember the
mhm.
first time she told me that, like, yeah, I was really hurt. I was like, "What do you mean? I love you. This is
100.
what I said in my mind." Um,
Mm,
but how they experience us sometimes is different than what we're
yeah.
providing, and so learning not to take things personally is huge.
Yeah.
It's
100%.
huge. It's not about us, it's about how they're interpreting, how they're experiencing the world,
Yes.
and that is there's value in that, whether or not it's true,
Yeah.
because we as adults know emotions are not all facts,
Yeah.
not even always valid in my opinion, but
Yes.
they're real, and
100.
experience them, and if
Absolutely.
our goal is to have a secure attachment connection to our kids,
Mm,
to be that unconditional love and support to
yes.
them, I
Yes.
can't let offense, misinterpretations,
Yeah.
discomfort get in the way of that connection. Like, we really have to be aware, like, what is our goal? And
100%.
that is important. And why and sorry, I feel like I'm on a tangent right now, but it gets me
Not at
excited
all.
talking about because it's
Yes.
like I can have the will and
Yeah.
desire for attachment to be my goal, unconditional love to be my goal, but if my actions don't align, it's not gonna happen.
Mm-hmm.
If I
100%.
regulate and separate
Mm,
my emotions from my reactions with my child, that's not gonna happen. And so
100%.
my actions are so important when it comes
Yeah.
to making lasting change. And sometimes
Mm,
it's small baby steps, sometimes it's
mm-hmm.
2 steps forward and 1 step back, but
Yep.
eventually those actions
Yep.
create this identity that
Yeah.
you are that parent that unconditionally loves their
Yes.
and that you
Absolutely.
are unconditionally there no matter what through those little steps forward,
Yes.
you know?
Absolutely.
And then we can be those parents.
Absolutely. And this, I love that you talked about that because that is, those efforts is what we mean by breaking generational patterns. It's
Mhm,
choosing to do things a little bit different,
mhm.
right? Now, I totally get it because there's times that my 11-year-old tells me about myself, and I'm like,
Who are you talking to?
and I'm just like, really no.
funny because
And
like 70% of the time I answer well, but there's like the 30% where I'm just like, who are you saying?
wait, what?
You're brave. Like,
Yeah, for you it's your inner East African mom, and for me it's my inner Jamaican mom. I said, wait, hold up, what? Right?
yeah,
But even the fact that we are willing to hold their emotion in itself is breaking generational patterns.
yeah. And
Wow.
I do want to bring up, so I created this Mommy and Me Christian journal. And
Yes, please. I was gonna tell you, plug it. Come
yeah,
on.
yeah. So
That's beautiful.
thank you. So how this journal was created was like
Yes.
my oldest daughter is very different from me, right? Where she's
Mm,
more emotional, more a deep feeler, she's very expressive with her emotions. Whereas me,
mhm,
my natural inclination is to suppress my emotions,
mm.
move forward. I'm more action oriented. I move really quickly. And so what was
Yeah,
happening, we were kind of passing each other. You know,
yeah,
it was really challenging for me sometimes to create space,
yeah.
to really sit with her, listen to
Mhm,
her, allow her to express herself. Sometimes it
mhm.
was, it was hard for me. And
Yeah,
so we started writing to each other.
I love
And
that.
so writing to each other helps me also regulate. So
Yeah.
when he's writing something like, I can't believe you spoke to me like that yesterday. I was really
Mhm,
upset.
mhm,
I have space where I could get myself together,
mhm.
take a few deep breaths, remind myself it's not about me, not to take
Yep.
it personally, and actually
Yeah.
come up with a response that
Yeah.
she needs that
Mhm.
truly represents the mom that I want to be. Because
Yeah.
I have to be honest with myself. Sometimes it
Mhm.
is hard to show
Yeah.
up in those moments. And
Absolutely.
I don't have to shame myself, but I
Yeah.
have to know what my strengths are and what my weaknesses are. So
Absolutely.
as we started writing to each other, I realized that we were able to create more space to
Mm,
have deeper conversations and to
mhm.
strengthen our connection and also
Yeah.
to repair
Yes.
when we do miss each other.
Absolutely. Girl, I love that. I love that. So where can people find this Mommy and Me journal?
So it's a Mommy and Me Christian journal. It could be
Yes.
found on Amazon or through
Yes.
our site. It's only available in North America. I'm sorry if you are overseas.
Yes.
And so it's it includes biblical principles like Bible
Mm-hmm.
scriptures, but also therapeutic techniques that
Ooh, look how pretty that is. Yes,
first
child.
like 8 and up. And so, you'll have different prompts like,
Wow.
3 things I'm grateful for, 3 ways I've helped someone, notes from mom. And so it doesn't
Wow.
really center the kids' emotions. It
Okay.
more so centers their
Mm-hmm.
relationship with God and their relationship with their parent. And there's
Mm.
a lot of opportunities for the girl to build an identity that's actually accurate.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
when you get to a preteen's age, sorry, here's like, what feels frustrating these days, what felt
Mm-hmm.
easy. It's
Yes.
easy to create a false identity as a preteen where
Mm-hmm.
their emotional center is overactive, like,
100%.
and that's
Yeah.
evidence that they're growing, evidence that their brain is developing. But with
Yes.
that, they could develop false stories, false narratives about who they are. And so by
Absolutely.
this journal is like it gives them an opportunity to share some parts of their identity in a very natural way. So when
Yeah.
you're filling out what feels frustrating these days,
Yeah.
identify, okay, this is something that's hard for them. Friendship is hard
Absolutely.
for them. Doing
Yeah.
math is hard for them. And
Yeah.
then you automatically have this opportunity to build
Mm.
them up, to empower,
Wow.
to fill in the gaps.
I
Um,
love
so
that.
that's kind of what drove me to create this. And yeah, it's been beautiful, like using it even with my own kids and hearing stories
I
from
love that.
parents who are using it with their daughters.
I love that. I love how, especially that you deal with it's almost like the Erickson stages of, how we call it,
Okay.
stage. Yes,
Yeah.
right, and how kids develop and the things, especially when it comes to identity and trust and loyalty and relationships. These are things that they're building, especially
Mhm.
in those preteen to teenage years, right? So I love that you addressed that. When is the one for mom and boys coming? Because I have two little boy, I want one now. Come on.
I got and it's different with boys, you know. I
Yes.
think obviously boys are different too. Not all boys are the same. But a lot of boys are more physical with their
Mhm.
expressions, and so we'll see. Hopefully I'll come
Yes.
up with something for boys.
Yes. Come
Because
up with
boys need
one.
it too. Yeah.
Yes, and captured by Shani's in the chat. She says it's an amazing devotional. Truly love it.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
That is wonderful. That's wonderful. So, Love Bay, if you can, if you are in North America, please reach out to Senite, right? And grab one of these. If you have a little daughter, she will love it. Amazing.
Thank
You're,
you.
you're welcome. You're welcome. So, what are some generational patterns that, those that are listening should be looking out for as they're even doing some self reflection?
No, that's a great question.
Hmm.
One common generational pattern
Yeah.
is criticism. You know,
Hmm.
harsh inner critic.
Yes.
Interesting, because one time I was talking to my mom about going to therapy, and she just was like,
Mm.
"Why are you going to therapy? You're fine," you know? So I was sharing with her how I struggle with this harsh inner critic. And she
Yeah.
was like, "Oh, I think like that all the time." That's normal.
Yeah.
I was like, "Mommy, you don't have to live like that.
Yeah.
You don't have to live with this harsh inner critic." But for her, it was normalized. It was normal.
Yeah.
It helps.
Hmm.
You know, that harsh inner critic gets stuff done despite how you're feeling. It
Yes.
pushes through those difficult emotions. It's helpful,
Yes.
especially if you're in survival mode, right?
Hmm.
And so I think kind of recognizing things like that harsh inner critic,
Yeah.
recognizing when you might be functioning like you're in survival mode when you're not,
Hmm.
you know,
Yep.
especially if you're a child of immigrants or your parents, just struggled financially, or just came to a new
Yes.
country. I think sometimes those are patterns that can come up.
Yeah.
And then I think there's
Absolutely.
subtle patterns as well, like one
Yeah.
subtle pattern for me was like physical affection. I found physical affection really
Mm-hmm.
challenging, and I would just say, "Oh, I'm not a hugger," or "That's just not my thing." But then when you have
Mm.
you want to hug and you want to love all the time, and sometimes your body doesn't want that. Sometimes your body
Yeah.
has this adverse reaction that can be that generational pattern,
Absolutely.
whether you didn't
Yeah.
experience a lot of physical affection, or maybe you experienced corporal punishment,
Mm-hmm.
but your body doesn't
Mm-hmm.
feel safe
Yeah.
around physical affection. So one hack,
Absolutely.
I'll give the listeners a hack to really discovering some things that need to be broken, is really
Yes.
tuning into your physical body. Okay.
Yes.
Tuning into physical symptoms. Okay. When
Yes.
we become aware of what happens
Mm.
in our body around different people, around different
Yes.
seasons, different times of the day, we can start to kind of decipher what those
Mm.
physical responses are trying to communicate to us.
Yes, ma'am. Keep
Because
going, child. Keep going.
we're a very cognitive heavy like culture. Like, we like to think
Yep.
logical, and we love to use that part of our brain, but the
Yes.
body always speaks first.
Always.
And so, an example is like when I would get angry, anger is like my go-to.
Hmm.
I started tuning into my body, and I noticed
Yes.
that my anger would feel like this thing rising up from my stomach,
Yes.
rising up, almost like kind of like a volcano, but slow, up
Mm-hmm.
to my chest. And
Mm-hmm.
that's when I let it out.
Yep.
When I started getting to know my physical responses, I'll never forget one day that really hit me. I was like, "Why is my stomach doing this?" I didn't even
Mm-hmm.
realize I was getting angry, but
Yeah.
I learned how to listen to my body. And then I
Mm.
felt it coming up, and I was like, "Oh, I'm getting angry right now." In that
Yeah.
scenario, I felt like I was being taken advantage of. So I'm like, "I feel like this
Mm-hmm.
person is taking advantage of me, and that's
Mm-hmm.
making me angry."
Yep.
But because I tuned into my body, I was able to counter it and be like, "This person is not trying to take advantage of you. She's just
Mm.
saying something." This is a
Yes.
misinterpretation. Then I was able to
Absolutely.
bring myself back down. And so when we are
Absolutely.
aware of our bodies, aware of what our bodies are trying to say, by slowing
Mm-hmm.
down, by being intentional, by tuning in, then we
Mm-hmm.
will be able to have a different outcome to those emotional experiences. And that
Mm-hmm.
time, that takes more than willpower.
Yes.
It takes intentionality.
Yes.
It takes slowing down. It takes
Mm-hmm.
learning your physical responses. It takes compassion. It takes patience.
Mm-hmm.
The list goes on.
Yes.
But it's
Yes.
possible. It's possible, and it's
Absolutely.
not something that only some people can do. We can all get to
Mm-hmm.
that place of intentionality in our parenting and our lives. Um,
Yes.
yeah.
Absolutely. This is the Mental Health Hour on Love Bay Afrobeat Music and Talk Radio. These conversations matter and they exist because of community support. You can listen back to this episode or share it with someone who might need it on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and LinkedIn, or find us online at lovebay-afrobeatmusicradio.com. If you value spaces where mental health, culture, and real life meet, consider donating through the Love Bay website to help sustain this work. Girl, I love that you're talking about, the somatic, or, the body, listening to the body, because yes, you're right. Like, our bodies do respond first. And I know that you were talking about survival mode, right?
Mhm.
And really, I know that it might sound silly to some, right? But our body perceives various situations and things as danger, right?
Mhm.
And so we do kick into this survival mode, and we do that through our physical self,
Yeah.
right? And so I love that you were talking about just noticing, taking time to actually notice what's happening on the
Mhm.
inside. Like, you could feel that physical sensation. Once you start paying attention to it, it's hard to miss it.
Yeah.
Right? So when you start feeling like you were mentioning that bubbling up like a volcano, that was the best imagery. I was like, yes, child, yes, right? And you could feel it slowly bubbling up until it came out, right? If we can actually take that time to, like, for me, I know when I'm stressed because I start gritting my teeth, like, ugh.
There you
Like, I
go.
kind of, right? And my shoulders are like a brick, right?
Yeah.
So even when I go to my chiropractor now, Tracy, bring up yourself, Tracy, my chiropractor, right? Live therapy in Markham. And she's just there. She's like, oh my gosh, Felicia, your shoulders. And I'm
Mhm.
like, girl, that is stress, stress, and stress, right? But our bodies, it, like, I think it's Bessel van der Kolk that talks about how our
Mhm.
bodies keep the score, right?
Mhm.
It's our bodies gives receipts. It tells us about what we're holding,
Yeah.
and our bodies go through so much in motherhood,
Mhm.
from pregnancies, even in the postpartum, no matter how long. Like, our bodies go through so much, our hormones go through so
Mhm.
much.
Mhm.
And then when we're done with the motherhood, then the perimenopause, menopause,
Yeah.
postmenopause, pause, all comes to mess up our emotions even
Yeah.
more, right? And it's just like we're constantly being bombarded by a lot.
Mhm.
If it's not just external things, it's internal things,
Mhm.
right? And so I think that even just listening to our bodies, it can help us not only in this motherhood stage, but even, later on in life when we begin to experience even menopause. Like, we need to begin to actually tune in a meaningful way.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. Thanks for saying that.
Yeah, man. Well, you sparked it, Tina.
Thank myself then.
Yeah, big up yourselves.
Yeah.
Yes.
The survival mode is such a
Yeah,
huge topic.
yeah,
And it's a lot of things that we do had a purpose at some point,
yeah.
whether in our own lives or the generation before us. And so
Yes.
why shame can be really harmful And so I like to even like thank myself. Like even when I notice my protective parent
Yes.
showing up, trying to protect me when there's
Mhm.
no harm, I can be like, thank you for trying to protect me, but I'm good. Like
Yes.
I'm okay. And
Yes.
and so a lot of us come from incredible families with incredible histories and incredible stories of
Mhm.
resilience. And there's so much to honor and there's so much to respect.
Yes.
And I think that's
Yes.
important in this conversation. We're not trying to do better because we are better. You know, we have
Mhm.
a lot of us have access to more things than those before us
Yeah.
have access to, may be
Yes.
more privileged than our parents were before us. And so this is us
Yeah.
really taking advantage of the privileges that we have, the access to
Yeah.
information, to resources, to support. And
Yes.
what, I'm going to utilize my privileges and steward them well,
I,
and I'm going to
yeah.
make change for my kids because I can.
Yes. Absolute girl. You just drop a nice piece of Angera right there.
That I ate, right? That's what you're saying, that I ate that?
Girl, yes, yes. I was gonna say dumpling, but that's Jamaican. You dropped the Angera bread today, or Angera. I should just say Angera, right? You
Well, my
know.
husband, my husband's Jamaican, so we can go both ways. It's fine.
Okay, so the dumpling and Angera meat. I like that. Right? And thank
Yeah.
you so much, Natasha. She says, great conversation. Thank you both. So glad that you're tuning in with us, Natasha. And thanks for your comment. And yes, the chat is open, guys. If you have questions, comments, we'd love to hear from you. Absolutely. And I love that you talked about the fact that our parents didn't have access to a lot of the things that we had. And big up to our parents and our great grandparents and the generations before, right? Because
100%.
each generation fights so hard for what we have today, right?
Exactly.
And they gave up a lot and they sacrificed a lot, and yes, they made mistakes just like we make mistakes, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
And we're all just trying to learn and do better than we did yesterday.
Yeah. And even this radio show, like what a gift is it to have the conversation
Yes,
accessible everywhere. Like that's a privilege. This globalized world that
absolutely.
we live in
Yes,
is a beautiful thing. And I'm so grateful
yes.
that we can even take advantage of that and have these conversations that could be heard anywhere.
100. All right. So, Love Bay family, big up yourself back there. Ty B, Janice, big up yourself. Honestly, like it's all a privilege, and we love our global Love Bay listeners and our local Love Bay listeners, and I'm so glad that we can have these spaces where we can talk about the hard things, right?
Yeah,
Because thing is that life is still life, and so we're just trying to figure it out.
exactly. Exactly. And then even,
Mm,
as we wrap up this conversation, I think, it's easy to talk about those generational patterns that we want to break, but I think it's
yeah.
also important to remember the generational patterns that we want to continue, you know. Like that's a
Ooh,
whole other episode, right? But
that's another episode. You're
just
gonna
to
have to come back for that one,
yeah, just to touch on it is like the value of
Yeah.
community. I think a lot of us come from communal cultures, like you mentioned earlier.
Yes.
And just
Yes.
even when I think of my own family, like the way there were always people over. And even though we didn't have much, there was always so
Mm,
much food. There was also an open door and
yes.
that love of being together. Like we lived in a
Mm,
small little apartment, 3 bedrooms,
yeah.
6 of us. Why did we always have people over? We even had people sleeping over.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
that is that's incredible. And we can't lose that.
Yes.
Us in the West, we live
Mm,
in this individualistic culture where it's all about your nuclear
yeah.
family and your immediate family, which is
Yeah.
good, but we can't forget the
Yeah.
culture that came before us and the value in
Absolutely.
that. And so
Uh,
we really got to
mhm.
be intentional with continuing certain patterns and not miss out
Absolutely.
on the beauty of our cultures.
That's right. Do you hear that, Love Bay family? Don't throw away the baby, the bathwater, the parents,
No, throw it
right?
all
There's things that we can keep too, right?
away. Yeah,
Yes,
100%.
Absolutely. In my work with clients, and they ask about, well, there's values that I don't want to take with me. Should I just throw them all away? I'm like, well, you have to decide that. But
Mhm.
are there good values that you learn from your family of origin as well? And if they're good and you feel like they're worth keeping, then I think you should actually keep them, right? Because those are the legacies that we bring forward to the next generation, right?
Exactly. Exactly. And then even like what is the definition of good too? Like, are we defining it
Chat.
by the Western standards, or, by
Mm-hmm.
standards that we don't even really agree with? And that's what I love
Mm-hmm.
about having a family. It's like you can decide what your family culture is, but
Absolutely.
you can't overstate your own intelligence or your own knowledge. Like, there
Absolutely.
has to be some humility in that as well.
100%. Absolutely. We have a question captured by Shani, who's asking, what does breaking generational patterns actually look like in daily motherhood? Not just in intention, but in practice. Great question. Woo, yes, Chad. Let's
That's,
go.
that's a great question. I,
Yes.
I I think the intentionality breaks into practice. And so, like, I think choosing one thing. If
Mm-hmm.
sometimes if you just choose one thing that you want to do differently,
Mm-hmm.
and then sticking to that, because
Mm-hmm.
when we actually practice things, I think that's when we could own a different identity. So like one thing that I would do is, I would lie down
Mm-hmm.
with one of my children, regardless of how old she was, and that practice broke a certain pattern because I've never been
Mm-hmm.
tucked in. Like I never had my parents lying down with me in bed or anything
Mm-hmm.
like that, and I really wanted to do something differently. And sometimes I don't want to do it. Sometimes I'm like you're
Mm-hmm.
big. Why am I in this big kid's bed? Like those thoughts
Yeah.
go through my mind, but
Mm-hmm.
I have this intention,
Mm-hmm.
it influences my practice.
Mm-hmm.
So I
Yeah.
kind of got to choose something. You can't choose all the things. You can't try to
Yeah.
do everything differently. But
Mm-hmm.
I think just recognizing what's my capacity right now, and
Yes.
then doing something that you can do within your capacity. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah, a simple thing is even like conversations. Like, instead of giving advice
Mm-hmm.
or talking all the time, how about asking questions, being curious, allowing for spaces of silence,
Mm-hmm.
saying things like, I notice, hey, you seem like you're in a good mood today, instead of, oh,
Mm-hmm.
cool, how are you doing? What's new?
Yes.
Just
Yes.
sharing those observations, that even breaks certain patterns where now I'm giving my kids a space to
Mm,
express themselves. I'm giving
absolutely.
them the space to freely communicate what's going on without me taking charge or
Mm,
the lead.
absolutely. Yeah, I would agree with that as well. I think it's like a 1-2 punch. So there's the self awareness. I think that you have to constantly be, critical thinkers, and we also have to reflect a lot on ourselves. I think that that's a part of our growth. But then you're right, like I would agree with the fact that you need to just choose by making those micro habits first, right?
Mhm.
And when we can get stronger at those micro habits, so if there's one thing that we want to change, like I don't want to yell at my kids anymore, I want to yell less at my kids, right? um, or I want to lead with understanding first rather than jumping to a conclusion or something. Anything, it could be
Mhm.
anything. we
Mhm.
take we take one thing and then we become a master of that,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Before moving on to the next thing, right? So when you feel like you mastered it, you go to the next thing and go move forward, right?
Yeah, that's great, Felicia.
Mhm. Yes, Chet. you know this is so much fun, girl. This is so much fun. Wonderful. And you're so welcome, Shani. Thank you for your question. Absolutely. All right. Well, Senait, if you could leave one last thought or word of wisdom, for our Love Bay family tonight, what would that word of advice or wisdom be?
Um, there's this quote, I'm going to mess it up, but I'm going to try to say it as well as I could.
Go for
Is
it.
are you living for the generation before you? or are you living for the
Mm.
generation to come?
Wow.
I think sometimes in various cultures, we could be so fixated on trying to meet our parents' expectations, no matter how old we are,
Mm.
our culture's expectations, that we forget about the legacy. We
Mm.
forget about the future, whether our children or our future legacy. And
Mm.
so I think asking ourselves that question,
Mm.
like, who are you living for? Who are you doing this thing for?
Mm.
Kind of kind of helps to break
Yeah,
certain patterns.
absolutely. Well, you just had to drop that big piece of dumpling slash Anjera right at the end, eh? I love that. I love that.
Give you guys something to think about.
Yes. Wow. Yeah, we're gonna have to definitely get you back ASAP. Okay.
No, this is great, and I love that, like,
Mm.
even the way you lighten the space, because this
Yeah.
sometimes it could be a heavy topic for some people,
Yeah.
heavy conversation, um,
Absolutely.
but we don't have to make it heavy, like,
Yeah.
even being here, listening to this, I
Yes.
think that even demonstrates your willingness to wanna do things differently, and
Absolutely.
that's beautiful and that's powerful, and there's a lot of unconscious changes that happen too. So I'm
Yeah.
so happy to be part of this conversation, and I love your energy, Felicia.
Oh, girl, I love your energy. Yeah, I love your vibe. From the Ninja Turtles. The vibe.
Girls, I have girls.
Oh yeah, I'm a boy mom. So, oh my goodness. Yes, no, I agree. Like it starts with showing up and with just that willingness to shift, to pivot. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, we're gonna get you back. All right, let's go. All right. So, as we begin to close, I want to thank you for spending this time with us tonight. Conversations like this remind us that breaking generational patterns isn't about perfection or willpower, it's about awareness. It's about compassion and giving ourselves permission to grow in real time, especially as mothers. So, Night Girl, thank you for your honesty, your wisdom, and for sharing both your professional insight and your lived experience with us so generously. This kind of conversation matters and creates deep change. And to everyone listening, if something from tonight stayed with you, know that you don't have to carry it alone. Take what resonated, move gently with yourself, and allow the work to unfold at its own pace. If you missed any part of tonight's episode or you want to revisit this conversation, you can find the Mental Health Hour on Love Bay Afrobeat Music and Talk Radio across YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and LinkedIn, or visit lovebay-afrobeatmusicradio.com. And if you're able, please consider supporting the station through a donation. Your support helps keep conversations like this accessible to our community. This has been She Speaks on the Mental Health Hour. I'm Felicia Fishoff, a registered psychotherapist, and thank you so much for being here. So until next time, peace out.